if you have this book, Tattva-sandarbha, we are now on the page 279. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my most humble obeisances. We are going to continue our study of Sri Tattva-sandarbha, the book which is the first one out of the 6 books written by Srila Jiva Goswami, in which he is trying to help us to strengthen our faith in Krishna consciousness. And the first foundation of the faith is to understand what are the pramanas, which means the means of acquiring reliable knowledge. Prama means the knowledge you can trust, and pramana means the what are the means of getting this knowledge. Because we want to know what to do in this material world, what is good, what is bad, what is sad and asad, what is spiritual, what is material. So in this way, there are different ways how to get this knowledge. And Srila Jiva Goswami, he had already refuted the most of the pramanas, like pratyaksha pramana, numana pramana, then arsha, upamana, upapati, cheshta, arthapati. So many different pramanas, which are the basically combinations of pratyaksha, anumana, and shabda. And then he said that the most reliable, most trustworthy pramana for us in all practical areas of life is the Shabda Pramana. And then he asked a question, okay, Shabda can be different, which means this is the knowledge which has been received from the reliable source, authoritative source. And then he said that what we want to understand is the completely achintya, inconceivable, all-powerful, all-inclusive absolute truth. So in this way, only the means or the instrument which has the same qualities, same spiritual qualities, same unlimited achintya and so on qualities, can be useful to understand this absolute truth. And then he said that, moreover, this knowledge which we want to receive is not only spiritual knowledge, but also practical material knowledge. And this source of information should be able to provide us whatever is necessary for our life, both spiritual life and material life. And then he says, this is the Vedas. And then many questions arose like about what is the authority of the Vedas, like different purvapakshas, means the opposite arguments. What about the Vedas speaking about material things? Do they become material by doing so? Or what is the use of speaking something which is above our practical scope of life, like some abstract things about the highest reality or the supreme absolute truth? Is it practical or not? And then Srila Jiva Goswami, he said that yes, it's practical, because although you might not be interested in such things, but always there are persons who want to understand something higher than just material life, day-by-day life. So for them, we have those parts of Vedic literatures to provide them the higher information. And then he said very interesting things, that one who is pure devotee of the Lord, he considers all parts of the Vedas as transcendental. He sees that they are non-different from Supreme Lord. And we quoted a few verses from the Shrimad Bhagavatam, Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamabhya Shashvati Tanu, where Krishna says that Shabda Brahma and Param Brahma, Supreme Lord, and the Shabda Brahma, the Vedas, they are two his highest bodies, like two manifestations of him. So Vedas are non-different from Krishna. And we also said about this verse from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, or where it is said that Ato va Mahato Bhutasya Shvasitam, that different Vedas, there are different emanations of breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the proof that they are coexistent with the Supreme Lord. Krishna is eternal and Vedas are also eternal. They manifest in this material world whenever it's been created. But it doesn't mean that they are part of the material world. They are higher than this material world. And then we also say that Vedas, they come in this world by the means of the great sages. And there are two kinds of sages, Veda Rishi and Shuta Rishi. Veda Rishi means those through whom different parts of the Vedas are manifested in this material world. Like Teni Brahma Hridaya Adhikava Ye. Krishna imparted the Vedic knowledge in the heart of Lord Brahma, who was the first living entity, Adhikavi, first scholar in the universe. And then by using this knowledge of the Vedas, he had created this material world. But then we also say that there are different other sages who had received the missing parts of the Vedas whenever there was a need of those parts. And we quoted this verse, Yuganteyan Tarhitan Vedam Sichihasa Maharshinaha Liphire Tapasa Purvam Anugnatah Swayam Bhuva. That whenever this need is there, Swayambhuva or Lord Brahma, self-born demigod, like who is the Vidhata, the secondary creator of this material world, he is asking some of the sages, please perform tapasya, do devotional service, and manifest some parts of the Vedas. And we gave an example of the hard drive. We can have only some part of the information there in the hard drive. But if you need some more information, which is not in the hard drive, you can go to the cloud or to the internet and you can download it. So in the same way, Vedas are anantaparam gambhiram. Anantapara means they are unlimited. But only part of the Vedic knowledge, which is necessary for the functioning of this material world and living entities, is being manifested here. And whenever we need some other parts, we can download it. How? By the means of these great sages. And those sages, they are called Veda Rishis. But then the second category of sages, they are called Shuta Rishis. They hear the Vedic mantras from the Veda Rishis. Veda Rishis, they had received these mantras, and Shuta Rishi, they receive it in the parampara. And then they give it to their disciples and so on. So two kinds of sages are there. So therefore, Vedas are not part of this material world. They are completely spiritual. And then today we will continue the Purvapakshas or arguments about how is it possible that Vedas are material, are spiritual. So they are spiritual, and we say that pure devotees who see this spiritual nature of the Vedas, like Sarvajna, they say that they, pure devotees, they in great ecstasy chant the mantras from Samaveda and other Vedas, Karmakandya mantras, about the ritualistic worship in this material world. But they see those mantras also as spiritual, as not different from the Supreme Lord. And therefore Madhvacharya, he says in his commentaries, Vedi Ramayani Charva Purani Bharata Tatha Ado Ante Chamanthi Cha Hari Sarvatra Gyate. That in the Vedas, in Ramayana, in Puranas, in Mahabharata, in the beginning, at the end, and in the middle, Hari Sarvatra Gyate. Only Supreme Lord is being praised or glorified. So therefore, pure devotees, they can see it. And therefore they chant even Karmakanta mantras. But doesn't mean that they don't see the hierarchy of the Vedic statements. They see all Vedas are spiritual, but then Nigamakal Pataror Galitam Phalam, Shukamuka Tamritam Dravasam Yatam, Pevata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam, Muhuraho Rasika Bhumi Bhavukah. Will come to that the ripened fruit of the whole Vedas is Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's why pure devotees, they chant all Vedic mantras, but they especially like Srimad Bhagavatam, because it is full of juice. Pivata Bhagavatam Rasam Alaya. Alaya means like we have Himalaya, the big mountain of snow, or material world Krishna calls as dukkha alaya, the big mountains of dukkha, of sufferings. But then Srimad Bhagavatam is rasa alaya, it's a big mountain of rasa, of higher taste, of bliss, of happiness. So that's why pure devotees, they prefer to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. But the other parts of Vedic literature, they also respect, because they see the connection, their connection to the Supreme Lord. And then a few other questions might arise regarding to the spiritual nature of the Vedas. And therefore, today Srila Jiva Goswami, he is going to continue. He is going to pose a few arguments, and then he is going to refute those arguments. Why we believe to the Vedas? Because they are spiritual, and still, according to the mundane view, we can see some apparent faults. So that's why it's very important to refute all those arguments, to strengthen our faith in the Vedas. So that's why let us chant the Mangalacharana prayers so that we get the mercy of all those great sages. Like it is said that whenever we chant some Vedic mantras, like for example Brahma Gayatri mantra, which is the mother of the whole Vedas, and then we should, before chanting Brahma Gayatri mantra, we should remember or get blessings from the Rishi of that mantra, which is Vishwamitra Rishi. So that's why everything we know, our ability to study Vedas, depends on the mercy of our previous acharyas. So therefore, when we pray to them, by their mercy, we can get some ability to understand what is there in the Vedas. So this is the very important part of our methodology, how to understand the Vedic knowledge, how to understand Vedas as they are. Okay, so let us pray, and then we'll continue what Jiva Goswami wants to tell us about the nature of the Vedas. Okay. Om Gyanat Smirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Sva Padanchikam Vancha Kalpataro Bhishya Kripa Sindho Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karuti Vachalam Pangum Lagate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shivuru Jinataranam. Hare Krishna. So Jiva Goswami, he continues saying that he says, Nanu Arvakjana Samvadaji Darshanat Kadham Tasya Anaditvaji Anaditvaji. He says, still, how can you qualify the Vedas as beginningless and so on, when we see in them such things as conversation among recent persons? Wow. You see, like Katha Upanishad is one of the Upanishads, one of the principal Upanishads. And then we see that there was one sage who was called Katha Kamuni, who met with another great sage, and then Yamaraja appeared, and then he had received some spiritual knowledge, which is the very, very important part of the whole Vedic literature. So basically, he's some historical person. And then when we say that Vedas, they are eternal, It means that how some recent persons can be there in the Vedas. Looks like that Vedas are written on account of some historical events, like the kind of itihasas or the books which describe the history. In this way, when we try to understand the nature of the Vedas, some doubt may be there that how they can be apaurushaya. Looks like some persons just wrote Vedas after the historical events. That's why they cannot be spiritual, transcendental. They are in the time. You see, it's very, very important argument. And then Srila Jiva Goswami, he says, I think somebody, maybe, I think, Swayam Jyoti Krishna Prabhu.
Can you make
yes.
Mute, please, Prabhu? Yours unmuted, Prabhu. Can you make muted? Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. I'm very sorry, dear devotees. I would like to hear each and every one of you, what you can give you, to take bhakti from you, but still it's I have to speak right now, so therefore, please forgive me. So Jiva Goswami, he says that Katham tasya anaditva adi. How we can say that Vedas, they are anadi. Anadi means not written by, they don't have the beginning. Looks like somebody had written the Vedas after some historical events. So he says, Uchate ata eva chanityatvam its atra sutre shankara sharirika bhashya pramanita yam shutau shruyate yagnenava chah padaviyam ayan tam anvavidan rishishu pravishtam. I'm very sorry that this is part of the original Vedas, but like I cannot pronounce this properly. We know that one kind of the problems in Kali Yuga that everybody are mlechas, which means that they cannot properly pronounce Vedic mantras. So I'm just trying as far as I able. So he says, our answer is that in the Shankara's Sharirika Bhashya, Sharirika Bhashya is the commentary to the Vedanta Sutra by Shankaracharya, where he comments on the sutra, therefore it is eternal, ateva chanitya tvam. We hear the statements cited from Shruti. By performance of sacrifice, the words of the Vedas manifested this form, which become fulfilled when they entered within the sages. And we find in the Smriti, on accord with a promise, like same verse which I already quoted. Yugantem haritam vedan sitiha sumahashayaha lepire tapasa purvam anungyata svayam bhuva. In accord with the promise made by self-born Brahma, the great sages, by the power of their penances, revived the Vedas and the Itihasas, which had disappeared at the end of the age. So, Gopanatha Prabhu, he writes, the Vedas are said to transcend time, yet they describe historical events, including conversations between persons known to have lived at particular times. But in the opinion of Shri Jiva and other Vaishnavas, and also of the impersonate Shankara and his followers, these conversations and other historical narrations are not records of past events made after the fact. Rather, the Vedas are the prototype upon which the evolution of material creation is modeled in cycle repetition. The various hymns of the Vedas are seen to have authors, their rishis or seers, but as explained in the Vedic text here cited, the rishis are but receivers and transmitters of the eternal sound. So he says that whenever we have some historical events, it doesn't mean that Vedas are after those events. Actually, what happens, Vedas predict those events. It's Aja Prabhu, we are reading Sarva-samvadini to the verse 11. It's on the page 280 in the Tattva-sandarbha book. Okay? Sorry. So, Jiva Goswami, he says that actually Vedas, they are beyond time and space. As we said that Krishna, he is completely transcendental. And in the Bhagavata-sandarbha, Jiva Goswami, he is going to explain the qualities of his body. That he is Vibhu, Sarvagata, and Antaratma, or Pratyakatma, or Pratyagrupa. And Vibhutva, or his transcendental quality, means that he is beyond time and space. And also that everything which is there in this material world is also him. He is not different from that. And it means that Krishna, he is not subject of the influence of time. Like in the 7th canto of Shrimad Bhagavatam, the 1st chapter also, Shukadeva Goswami, he explains how when time creates events in which Sattva-guna becomes more prominent, or Rajaguna or Tamaguna become more prominent. And then the living entities which are under the influence of Sattva-guna or Rajaguna, they get strength because of that. And therefore, sometimes demons, they can conquer or defeat the demigods. Sometimes demigods they can defeat. But everything is created by time. And also Krishna, in a sense, he comes to this material world at some particular points of time. And it looks like that that the time creates this situation when Krishna comes, the moment when Krishna comes. And it looks like Krishna is also under the influence of time. But then Shukadeva Goswami, he says, no, it's not like that. This is Krishna who is in his spiritual life, by his yogamaya potency, he, through the means of time, creates the events by which he comes to this material world. So he is above the time, above the past, present, and future. This is the quality of Krishna. And because Vedas, they are co-eternal with Krishna, they are also beyond the influence of time, past, present, and future. And it's impossible to understand by our intelligence or logic, because our logic is, we can understand only those things which we are accustomed to. And because we are living in the material world, which has these three phases of time, past, present, and future, we are created by time, like we are penetrated by time. We are living from past to present and to future, and no otherwise. So that's why whatever is there, like some things or some energies or some anything which is not which is different, which is above the time, is impossible for us to understand. But Vedas, they are such. They are above the time. So therefore, from this timeless state in which Vedas are, they create the events. And because they are above the time, those events, they are already in the Vedas. And it's not like some event happened and then it was written in the Vedas. No, it was already written in the Vedas. And that what was written in the Vedas, it created this small moment of time in which this particular person appeared, and then particular conversation happened. That's the view what Srila Jiva Goswami wants to tell us. And then it can be logical. Like, as I said, it's difficult to understand. But still, by our material logic, it's impossible to understand. And therefore, Jiva Goswami, he quotes the Acharyas and Vedic statements to prove that that's exactly how it is. And then he says, Tasmin nitya shabdasya veda shabdasya tatra pravesha eva. And he says that when we see that Vedas, they like some sages, they manifested some hymns of Veda. It doesn't mean that that hymn of Veda was created at the time. No, it was internal. It just entered into the sage and had manifested through the sage. That's the and Vedas, they came, as I said, from the transcendental state, which is beyond time and space. And therefore, because they are beyond space, they can manifest in any place of this material world. In any place. It's not that Vedas they can become manifested only in India or in America or in some other country. No, everywhere you are, you can, like you have this Skynet, it's very popular right now, the satellite internet. Whenever you are, if you have this device, you can connect to it and you can get internet connection. So in this way, if you are the proper receiver of the Vedic mantras, whenever you are, you can receive them. Like as one of the names of Krishna is that he is Vishnu. Vishnu means that he is all-pervasive. It means that he is present in any place of this material world. And whenever he wants to manifest himself to you, he can do it without any problems. So in this way, Vedic hymns, they are also beyond space. They can manifest in any place of this material world if you are the proper receiver. So that's why those great sages, by the mercy of their spiritual masters and by performing devotional service, they had received these mantras. But it doesn't mean that they had written these mantras. So, and also we said that, I'll try to find it quickly if I can, just 1 second. Okay, yes, it's the exact quotation which is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Dashabhava Tattva, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 2.4.10. It states, Asya mahto bhuta asya nikshvasitam atat rikvedu yajurveda samavedda tharvange rasa ittihasaha puranam vidya upanishadaha shlokaha sutrani anuvyakyanani sarvani nikshvasitani. That this verse which speaks that the Vedas, different parts of the Vedas, they are emanations of the breathing of the Supreme Lord. They are transcendental. And he lists that what is there. Shlokas are there in some poetical compositions with a special meter composed by rishis, philosophers. Sutras are concise aphorisms written by the principal spiritual preceptors, acharyas. And anuvyakyas are written by the acharyas as purport to the sutras. However, the principal meaning of the word amnaya is Veda. So he says that the commentaries which are written by great sages, they are also parts of the Vedas. They are also eternal. It's not like that this commentator, he writes the commentary. Actually, the original spiritual commentary, which is already there in the Vedas, manifests through him. Wow, it's a completely different approach. That's why Srila Prabhupada, he said that the writings of Narottama Das Thakur, which are in Bengali, not in Sanskrit, they are not different from the words of the Vedas. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in order to prove that, he had written the Sanskrit commentary to Prema Bhakti Chandrika of Narottama Das Thakur to prove that this is as authoritative as Vedas. Why? Because those commentaries, they are also eternal. How to understand it? Don't ask me, because I cannot understand how it works. It's achintya khalo yebhava tam starka na yojayet. That achintya, they are such a states of existence which we cannot understand by logic. Because our logic is past, present, future. But this is beyond the logic. It's spiritual logic. And you can understand that only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. We'll speak about it little later on. So that's why Jiva Goswami, he says, therefore the eternal existent sound of Vedas simply enters these various stages rather than being created by them. And in each day of Brahma, the Vedas appear with such attributes as the name of these various stages, because it is how the Vedas eternally are. Moreover, those hymns of the Vedas, they appear along with the, like you have a person, you have a passport of this person. So we have some particular hymns of the Vedas, some mantra of the Vedas, and then a passport is there also, name of the sage. The sage, he might not, like, it might be some historical person, but it doesn't mean that he manifested this hymn. It was already predicted in the eternal Vedas, beyond time, past, present, and future, that such sage will be there and he will manifest the scheme of the Vedas. Therefore, his name is already side by side with the mantra. Wow, that's what Jiva Goswami wants to say to us. That Vedas are superhuman. It's not like just some books written by some ordinary authors. And they manifest swapramanya, or they manifest by their mercy whenever they are pleased with the attitude of this person. And we say that the prerequisites of how Veda can manifest is the order of the spiritual master. One has to serve his spiritual master, and he has to be the devotee. Ясядаве прабхактири тхадаве татха гурау тассете катита хертхах prakashanте mahatmanaha. Therefore, this verse from the Shitashvatara Upanishad 6.23 is the very final verse of this Upanishad. Says, Yasyadavya prabhaktir. If one has the parabhakti, pure devotion to the Supreme Lord, and yathadavya tatha gurau, and the same devotion to the Supreme Lord, to the spiritual master, tasya, for him, ete katita herthah, all the conclusions of the Vedas, prakashante mahatmanaha, they will manifest in his heart. So that's why it's very important to have those two qualities, to serve the spiritual master and to have bhakti, devotion to the Supreme Lord. And then Jiva Goswami, he says, Tatha hi samana nama rupa tvacha britau avirodha darshana smritescha. This is from Vedanta Sutra 1.3.30, I think. It is said, thus, because the names and forms are the same, even in repeated creation, there is no contradiction. This is seen in Shruti and also stated in Smriti. So it means that this material world, along with everything which we see here in this material world, all the objects, all the persons of this world, they are being created by the Vedas. It's not like Vedas, they describe what is already created. Actually, Jiva Goswami, he says, and for this sutra, Srimad Madhvacharya, the author of the Tattva-sandarbha commentary on Vedanta, cites these statements from the Shruti. He created the sun and moon just as it had before, and they, the Vedas, narrate events that occur at fixed times and follow fixed rules of intonation and so on. Therefore, this universe will never fail to be as it is now. So basically, he says that this world is created in such a way from the hymns of the Vedas. It never deviates from the original blueprint, how to say, or the original source of how it should be, which is written in the Vedas. And we read in the Brahma's prayers for the creative potency in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.9, I think 10.9, 25 or 26. He's praying to Krishna. Krishna, please bless me so that I would never deviate from the mantras of the Vedas while creating this world. Because if you deviate, if you pronounce it improperly, or if you pronounce the improper mantra of the Vedas, if it's corrupted sound in this way, because the universe is created from the sound, you will get not the proper result. For example, you wanted to create a human, you will get some mutant, or somebody who is just not what you wanted to do. Or so Brahma prays, and then Krishna says, Maveda Garbha, O Brahma, who is created from the hymns of the Vedas, you will never deviate. So Brahma, he prays, Krishna, please make me in such a way, my consciousness such, so that I created this world as you like it. And as you like it means as it is written in the hymns of the Vedas. And Krishna says, Maveda Garbha, your body is created from the Vedas. So therefore, it's your nature, like Vedic nature. So you won't be able to deviate from the hymns of the Vedas. So therefore, Lord Brahma, he creates this world in such a way as it was designed by the Supreme Lord. He is just helping Krishna in his creation, actually. Wow! So that's why all the sages which we see in this world, actually they are created by the Vedas. They are not just predicted in the Vedas, but they created by the Vedas. The points of time when they came to existence are also created by the Vedas, because they are in the spiritual realm. Wow, such a completely different concepts of what Vedas are. But that's what Jiva Goswami he's trying to say to us. And then he says, simple from the words of the Vedas, the great Lord produced in the beginning the names of the sages and all the varieties of creation mentioned in the Vedas. And then he quotes some verses from the Advaita Vada Bhashya on Vedanta Sutras, Sharika Bhashya also. The Lord of creation said, these ones, and sent forth the demigods. So Lord Brahma, how he creates? He utters or pronounces the Vedic mantras, and from them appears the object of this world. He said, just a second. Anyway, he says that he said these ones and sent forth the demigods. He said enjoyer of blood, Ashrigram, and sent forth the humans. He said moons and sent forth for the forefathers. And he uttered the word earth and created the earth. So this means that Vedas, they are completely eternal. They are beyond time and place. Is it understood, dear devotees? Because I understand that it's difficult to conceive. How is it? Like what we see in this material world, that some events happen and then we write about that, but Vedas are completely different, and this beyond our logic. So I'm just telling it as it's written in the Tattva-sandarbha, what Jiva Goswami says. But how to conceive it, we need mercy. Yes, Mataji Prabhupada Priya. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is all very wonderful. I'm just wondering, so if everything is already written in the Vedas and everything that happens in this world is happening because it's created by the Vedas, and Vedic knowledge is no different from Krishna, it's complete and perfect. So then the world is perfect. Everything is just as it's supposed to be. Could we say that?
Yes, Krishna says, Yecheva Sadhika Bhava Radhashastamasa Matam Mimetitan Vidhi Nachaham Teshute Mai. He says that whatever you see in this material world, Sadhika Bhava, by the mode of goodness, but then he says, Rajasas Tamasaschaye, also the Sattvaguna, the Rajaguna and Tamaguna, the abominable things in this material world, they are coming from Krishna. It's also him. And Krishna, he's beyond this duality of this world. He's all good. So then coming back to this conversation between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj about the Krishna who is coming, who is creating these events when sometimes demigods, they defeat the demons, sometimes demons defeat the demigods. Then the question arises, okay, does it mean that Krishna is producing, Krishna, he's forcing, by the means of time, he's creating some point of time when Sattvaguna prevails, becomes more prominent, and then demigods, they become more strong and then they defeat the demons, or the demons, they defeat the demigods, because the Sattvaguna, Rajaguna became more prominent. Does it mean that Krishna is, this is his fault, he's doing whatever he likes? And then Vishnu Chakravarti in his commentary, he says, actually, it's not Krishna. This is his Yogamaya energy, which is which follows the Krishna intention that he wants the good for all the living entities. And therefore, everything actually in this, what happens in this material world is Krishna Lila, which creates some good or bad events. But Krishna, he's behind everything. And what we should understand, that whatever good or bad happens in our life, this is for our good. Krishna is all merciful. Like Ganjendra in his prayers, he says, Muktaya Bhuri Karunaya Namo Layaya. Krishna, he always makes efforts in order to liberate living entities. So this is the higher vision. that yes, every sin is created by Krishna, but not just directly by Krishna, but his Yogamaya energy, which follows his internal heart, that he wants the good for all the living entities. That's the higher understanding. And according to our imperfect vision, we can see good or bad, but actually there is no good or bad. Everything is good, provided that we see connection with Krishna. And Krishna says that in the Chaturshloki Shrimad Bhagavatam, Riterte yat pratita na pratita chat mani tat vidyat atmano mayam yadha bhas yadha tamaha. Whenever you don't see my presence or connection or anything in this material world with me, you should understand that this is Maya. Yadha bhas yadha tamaha, as the reflection of the eternal energy in this material world. So basically, if you see connection of everything with Krishna, you are under the Yoga Maya, and then you can see Krishna's plan, what he wants you to do in this situation, and then you can become transcendental to this, you can get some benefit. But if you see it according to the material considerations, good or bad, then you are in Maya, and then you will suffer, or you will get some happiness, material sufferings. That's the higher understanding. That's what Shukadeva Goswami tells to Maharaja Parikshit in the beginning of the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Is it okay? Did I explain it, Mataji?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much. Also,
Okay.
I had a related question that if everything is already kind of like pre-written, then where's the question of free will?
It's also Yogamaya, because Yogamaya, she's like tricky. It's not like we have sthana and we have porshana. Sthana means that the sthiti Vaikuntha Vijaya. Shukadeva Goswami, he explains that sthiti means the defeat or the victory of the Vaikuntha, Supreme Lord. That he's the, how to say, he's the foundation of all dharma, of everything which is there in this material world. All events, they are happening because of his presence, because of his strength. But then, poshanam tatanugrahat. Poshana means that is the special consideration, special mercy of Krishna to those who had surrendered to him. So, according to the destiny or daiva, everything is already known, like predestined. But then, when you surrender to Krishna, you can change it, because you come to the influence of the Yoga Maya. Like before that, Yoga Maya was indirect through the Mahamaya. She was arranging all the events in this material world in your life. But then, when you come to the influence of the Yoga Maya, then you can change your destiny. Then you are, then is unpredicted what will happen with you. Even Krishna, he doesn't know what will next, because Yoga Maya is such. She is creating this novelty. She's creating this asharya or wonder, because like if you are the Supreme Lord, Krishna is Sarvajna, which means that he knows everything. That's one of the name of Krishna. And then if he knows everything, okay, now the Arishtasura demon will come to Vrindavan. I will fight with him, fight, pretend that he is great demon, and then I will defeat him. Okay, it happens so many times. So actually, it's very boring to be Supreme Lord, because you already know everything. That's why Yoga Maya, she creates that Krishna forgets that he's Supreme Lord. He forgets what's going to be next, like at the next moment, so that he could enjoy the situation, so that rasa could manifest. So in this way, when pure devotee comes to the influence of the Yoga Maya, Krishna no more knows what will happen with this devotee, because this is completely different realm of energies. Okay, is it okay? Did I explain it?
So just let me see if I understood this. So for a person who is under the influence of Mahamaya, you're saying there's basically no free will. Everything is predestined.
Yes. The only free will you have is to surrender to Krishna. Otherwise, you will just on the same level. Punah punashcharvita charvananam. Prahlad Maharaj says that you chew what had already been chewed. Same things. Basically, everything will be the same, predestined. But then, if you surrender to Krishna, then your life can become changed, because you come into the influence of the Yoga Maya.
So within Yoga Maya, there's space for devotees to express pure desires in the service of Krishna, and there's room for like creativity and just doing something totally different?
Yes. And to the extent that Krishna won't know what he will do the next. Although he is the all-known Supreme Lord. And that's achintya. You won't be able to understand how it's possible. You see? How Krishna, at the same time, he knows everything and doesn't know anything. That's because of the Yoga Maya. And that Yoga Maya can change completely your life. So that's why Татишна Мишася Prakritist Hopi Tat Gunar na Yujite Sadat Mastar Tado Buddhista Dashayah. In the 11th chapter of the 10th canto of Shrimad Bhagavatam, this verse appears that Tat Ishnam Ishasya, Krishna, although Prakritist Hopi Tat Gunar na Yujite, although he is apparently in the material world, but he is not touched by the modes of material nature. And Tato Buddhista Dashayah. And the same relates to those who had surrendered their consciousness, who had surrendered completely their life to Krishna. They also became transcendental to the modes of material nature. It's possible, but you have to completely, really surrender. Then your life will become changed. And that's actually the real expression of freedom, to surrender to Krishna or to remain in Maya. If you remain in Maya, basically everything will be destined. Just some scope is there, some very little scope of independence. But basically, you can predict what each and every person will do. But in the case of pure devotee, nobody can predict. Therefore, if you are devotee, if you go to the astrologer, real astrologer, he will tell you, why did you come to me? Because I cannot tell you. You have completely changed your life. So the astrology is not applicable to you, see? They cannot do it. But for the ordinary person, it's very applicable because they are under the influence of material nature. And if you know the laws of material nature, you can predict whatever they will do. Okay?
Okay, one more question if that's
yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so you were talking about how the Vedic knowledge is just kind of eternally just existing. It's just kind of out there in the ether, right? And it seems like people who are...
Not just in the ether, it's in the spiritual world. And pranendriya mano mayam, and it can manifest in the different levels of existence of living entities. In the prana, in manas, in the senses, in the mind. So there are different levels of Vedic sound. And in this verse of Shrimad Bhagavatam, it is said that they embody in themselves all the energies of the material, all the spiritual and material energies. They consist of everything which is there in the material world. So it's completely different from just some books which we can read, you see? It's Shabda. That's why Jiva Goswami, he wants to establish this. It's not just some ordinary books like we are accustomed to read. It's completely different. It's completely different realm of existence. That's why it's so difficult to understand what are the Vedas. But Jiva Goswami says only such instrument, such means can be useful to understand the all-powerful, all-inclusive, all the achintya Prabhava, Supreme Lord, who is completely inconceivable. Only by the inconceivable instrument, which is the Vedas, you can understand the inconceivable Supreme Lord. Like that.
So then you're saying that knowledge is ever existing, basically everywhere, that everything is produced. And then there are certain individuals who are pure or empowered, and they're able to act as conduits for bringing the knowledge into a realm where people can access it.
Yes.
So, can we also come to a stage through having implicit faith in the Lord and bhakti and the spiritual master, where we can also become conduits to that knowledge?
Yes, you can. And we can have Prabhupada Priya Samhita, for example. And pure devotee, they will relish this book because it was written by pure devotee. But the only remainder is to become a pure devotee. See? So it's possible, yes.
Okay. Thank you, bro. I'll let you continue.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So this is how Jiva Goswami explains the Vedas, and it's not everything. He says a few more Purvapakshas or the opponents. You see, this is Tattva-sandarbha. It's not just some normal book where he's raising such questions which I think most of us would never ask such questions, right? before today's section. I think that not every one of you, maybe a few of you, but not every one of you knew about the Vedas as such, how Jiva Goswami explained them. You see, right? So that's why Jiva Goswami, he is genius. He's trying to prove the eternal nature of Vedas from different point of view. And then he says, that thus accepting as axiomatic that the relation between words and their meaning is innate, we conclude that the Vedas have independent authority. That conversations are similar devices were introduced to help the hearers understanding accords with the statements. It may be said that there is contradiction of fact in what the Vedas say about the demigods having bodies. But this is not true, because the demigods come into being in pursuance of the Vedic hymns. This fact is supported by the empirical evidence of Shruti and the logical evidence of Smriti. This is Vedanta Sutra 1.3.28. You see? So he says that the words of the Vedas and the persons or the events which are explained or described by those words, the connection is eternal. It's not just at some point of time, some event happened, and then Vedas described it. Also, some sage at some point of time described this event. So that's why it came into existence. No, in this way, it won't be eternal anymore. Jiva Goswami says, no, that connection between the words, names of the sages, events and so on, is eternal connection. It's innate connection, which is already there in the eternal Vedas. Wow. And then he says, very important things. Tasmat vedakyam shastram pramanam tat lakshana hinatva tat viruddhatva chavadikam tu shastram na pramanam. Therefore, the scripture known as the Vedas is an authoritative source of knowledge. Such Vedas, not Vedas which we imagine as we think that they are, but Vedas as it was described by Jiva Goswami, having this nature of the Vedas. And then he says, but scripture that is not Vedic lacks authority, because it lacks the various defining features of the Vedas, and because it contradicts the Vedas. Wow. So he says that this is the absolute knowledge. And we said before that if you try to prove the authority of the Vedas, then the means you use to prove it will be higher in your esteems, in your eyes, than the Vedas. So this means that Vedas they will become the relative authority, not the absolute authority. And your means would be the absolute authority. Your logic, your understanding, or your some other considerations. So that's why Jiva Goswami says that Vedas they are svapramanya, which means that self-evident. Nothing you can use to prove the authority of the Vedas. And then if anything contradicts the Vedas, our logic, our pratyaksha, our perceivance of the facts, we see something different from what is described in the Vedas. So he says that it's imperfect. And even if you have some religion or the philosophical school which describes some things which are according to your pratyaksha, your vision, or according to the logic, very logical, very relevant, like looks like a sport. But if it contradicts the Vedas, he says it doesn't have the same authority. It's wrong, actually. So, coming back to the discussion about the authority of the different religions, if any religion of any scripture of this religion have the same authority as the Vedas, we can accept it. If it doesn't have the same authority, or it contradicts to what is written in the Vedas, so we cannot accept it as an fully authoritative. Like some part of the scripture can be according to what Vedas say, but some part will contradict to what Vedas say. So on the general basis, like partially we can accept it as authoritative, but in whole we cannot accept it, because it should have the same authority as the Vedas. That's what Jiva Goswami says. Okay? And then he says, as far those who do not accept the idea of God, and who think that very recent persons compose the revealed scriptures, they act in ways that aim to obliterate the eternal unbroken authority of the Vedas and obscure the eternal principles of Varnashrama. Thus they establish their own social division in their communities, obscuring the Varnas by introducing their own diets and so on. In this way, they come to the notion that the revealed scriptures are recent creations, obviously promulgated by a person of their own time. So they say that, okay, Vedas, it's some arsha, which means that it was very long time before. They are not relevant. So therefore, we have to improve the knowledge from the Vedas. No more varnashrama dharma. Just how we think we should have a family relationships or relationship between the communities, between the people. That should be the perfect. That's the scientific development which we see right now. And so they reject the authority of the Vedas. And Jiva Goswami, he says that they are atheists. They don't see that behind the Vedas there is the will of Supreme Lord, Krishna's mercy, that he created whatever material or spiritual knowledge which is in the Vedas in order to help the living entities to fulfill their desires and also to make a spiritual progress. So that's why they go against the Lord, Supreme Lord. And by doing so, they destroy the whole society. They invent some new principles or some new conceptions, some new philosophy, which is in the beginning it might look like proper or good, but actually it will create only problems in the future. So that's why Jiva Goswami said before that only very, very fortunate people, they believe in the Vedas, they accept the Vedas, and by doing so they get the highest benefit. But atheists or demons, actually they reject the Vedas. Very strong statement, right? But this is actually because they go against the will of the Supreme Lord. And then he says, one more argument, last one for this Tenta Nisheda. The very last one, but actually very important. But we see in those very Vedas, you say that Vedas are perfect, but you see such statements as the stones flowed, the ground spoke, and the water spoke, which seem to indicate that the Vedas are unreliable. How stones can float? But we know that when Lord Ramachandra, he made a bridge to the Lanka, stones were floating. Why? Because it's possible. And if you didn't see the floating stones, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. And then the ground spoke or the water spoke. Jiva Goswami, he says that and we should understand that such statements as the ground spoke and the water spoke refer to the demigods presiding over those elements. So actually this is demigods who can speak. The Yamuna river, for example, it's not just river, she's a person. And if you're very lucky, she can approach you, she can interact with you, she can give you spiritual knowledge. She is not an ordinary person, or other demigods, like we read in the Mahabharata or different scriptures, how demigods, they used to come to the earth, they used to speak with the humans. So if you see such statements in the Vedas, it doesn't mean that it's imperfect, or it's something untrue, not proper. No, this is your knowledge or perception is imperfect. Therefore, we should accept it. If you don't understand, it doesn't mean that this is not true. I have to upgrade my vision, my understanding, and then finally, I will come to know that yes, that was truth. I couldn't understand before, but now I understand. How is it truth? And that's what I said to one of the scientists who approached me, and he told that I'm making experiments, and I see that what I see as a result goes against to what I read in the Vedas. He was a devotee scientist, and I told that, yes, but if you continue making experiments, who can say that you won't come to the same conclusions which you see in the Vedas, right? So basically, we have to at least theoretically accept that Vedas are perfect, and our vision, our understanding is imperfect. And this is the devotional approach to the Vedas. Is it okay? We finished this 10th Anusheda of Tattva-sandarbha. Very important, very complicated, because Jiva Goswami, he speaks about the achintya nature of the Vedas, inconceivable nature of the Vedas. And he gives some logical supports of how and why Vedas can be the reliable means of acquiring proper knowledge. Yes, much Prabhupada Priya.
Hi Krishna, sorry, I have another question.
It's okay, it's okay.
I'm wondering, because we were just talking about how everything is created by the Vedas, and yet there are people who speak philosophies which are opposed to the Vedas. So presumably that's also under the control of the Lord, right? Because such people are
yes.
control.
Yes, Jiva Goswami, he had already said that in the now we are reading Sarvajna into the 10th Anusheda, but in the 10th Anusheda we saw these verses from the 11th canto of Shrimad Bhagavatam, when it was said that Vam Prakriti Vaichitriyat, because people, they have different natures, this eternal knowledge of the Vedas had become corrupted. And Prashanta Matayo Pareya. And therefore, as a result of this corruption, Prashanta Matayo, all these atheistic philosophies, they came into existence. So this is actually is also coming from the Vedas originally, but it's perverted manifestation of the Vedas.
So then you said there's also an eternal connection between the words of the sages and the Vedas. So is it that particular sages,
No.
they appear again
No.
and again to speak those same words?
No, you see, it's yes, some events, they are there, some names of the sages is already there. So it doesn't mean that the same sage from the spiritual world or in the material world, he has to appear at some particular point of time in order to be part of this Vedic discussion, to receive the knowledge or to speak the knowledge. Vedas are like a blueprint, like a skeleton, in which the particular jivas, according to the will of the Lord, who are qualified, they take the role of the sage, like Srila Vyasadeva. We read about him, how he had divided the Vedas into different parts. And actually this is just the post. Particular living entity takes this post as Indra or demigods. So in this way, Vedas, they speak about the events, but who is going to be the sage? It can differ from kalpa to kalpa, from time to time.
So could we see things like Shankaracharya's Mayavad philosophy or Buddha's nihilism, although those are antagonistic to Vedic philosophy, but they're also, part of a larger plan. So
yes.
Could we see even people today who espouse all kinds of, demoniac philosophies, that's also part of a larger Vedic plan?
Yes, 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 as we said that Rajasas, Satvika Bhava, Rajasas Tamasas Chaye. But tam immediate nidhi. It comes from Krishna. Krishna allows it to happen. Why? For example, you might ask, why in Vrindavan, in Krishna pastimes, there are so many demons? Vraja is the house of Krishna. But you might have your apartment or your house, and then you can imagine some very dirty person just enters into your house, and then you starts to crash everything. Wow, you won't allow him to enter, right? And we would accept that Krishna won't allow to enter all these demons into his house, Vrindavan, Vraja. But then it happens. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that demons in Krishna Lila, they are Krishna Lila Pushtikari, those who put some spices in Krishna pastimes. in order to make it more tasty. So that's why for the devotees who are lazy or complacent or just who are living in this material world, there should be the need of some demons so that the devotee could surrender to Krishna more. So that's why is the whole plan of Krishna, how he arranges everything. And it's up to us to accept that Krishna is Bhaktavatsala, he loves his devotees, he wishes good, he wants to help us progress in the spiritual life. Or we could try to protest, Krishna, why did you allow this demon to come to my house and to crash everything? You see? So that's why it's a completely different approach. Yes.
Yeah, because what I was thinking was, what is Vedas and what is not Veda? It seems that everything is, in one sense, directly or indirectly Vedas.
Yes. That's why in the very beginning of this Anusheda, Jiva Goswami says that Vedas should be the source of all laukika, alaukika, jnana, knowledge about material and spiritual world, and also the source of all thoughts in human society. Everything which you see, it should have source in the Vedas. That's the broad understanding he gave in this Anusheda. See? That's what we came to.
Then the question is, if everything is Vedas, then what should we follow? How do we know what is authoritative?
So that's why. It should be directly Vedas or indirectly the Vedas. So that's why it's better to accept which is directly Vedas, like which is directly connected to the spiritual energy, under the spiritual energy, which is not corrupted. And Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Therefore, we need to have acharyas, those pure devotees who had embodied the knowledge of the Vedas. Like one of the definitions of acharya says, Achinotya shastratha acharya sthapaya pi swayam acharya smat acharya stena kirtitaha. That Achinotya shastratha, one who had understood all the internal meanings of the shastras, not externally, just by academical knowledge, but from inside. And then acharya sthapaya pi, and he knows how to imply it or how to use it according to Deshakalapatra, time, place, and qualities of the persons. And then Swayam Acharya Smat, and he shows an example how we should apply this Vedic knowledge. This is the Acharya. So those Acharyas, they can tell us what is pure, what is not pure, what is corrupted, what is not corrupted. And they will tell you. If you, Jiva Goswami already said about the Buddhist philosophy, that okay, Buddha is also Supreme Lord, and his philosophy should also be accepted as Vedic. He told that no, because Buddha, he had rejected the Vedas. And he did it to delude or to illusion the living entities, the demons. So therefore we shouldn't accept it. And Acharya, he will tell you, yes, this is looks like Vedic, looks like proper, but it's not proper. You should choose those parts of the Vedas which are directly connected to the Supreme Lord. You see? Like it's also Achintya, да? Although everything is the Vedas, but something is not the Vedas. Like that. See? Achintya Bheda Tatra, according to the Vedic knowledge. Yes, Nilamani Prabhu, you have hand raised. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhuji, I'm trying to reconcile this positioning of Vedas as the supreme authority of the supreme, is the source of everything and so forth, with what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 2, where he's saying, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment.
Trigunya Vishayvedan, Strigunya Bhavajana, Nidvanda, Nitya Siddhastha, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. He says that yes, and then he says this verse you have quoted. Yes.
Veda Vadarata, right?
Veda Vadarata Jana, yes, something like that. So Krishna says that it doesn't mean that although the Vedas transcendental, but as we said that Vedas, they are knowledge for different kinds of people. Those who are conditioned in this material world, who has material desires, and also for those who wants to become pure, to go out of this material world. So Krishna says that for the materially conditioned persons, we have some hymns of the Vedas, Karmakanda hymns. And if you are Vedavada, if you are too much attaching to those gifts, you won't be able to receive or to accept the transcendental part of the Vedas. That's why he tells Arjuna, Arjuna, don't become too attached to the karma kanda. Try to understand that there are higher instructions on the Vedas. But it doesn't mean that because the Vedas, they speak about the karma kanda, material activities, the Veda itself becomes material. It's not so. They remain spiritual. It's just the consciousness of the people who wants to enjoy this material world. Therefore, for them, Veda manifests in these gifts which provide them the abilities to get some material enjoyment. But Veda remain spiritual. As we said, that great devotees, they chant the karma kanda mantras with great devotion, seeing them connected to the spiritual world, Supreme Lord. You see?
The way he says in 245, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, I think Prabhupada translates, Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature.
Yes, because it's the most part of the Vedas, karma kanda. Is the 3/4 of the Vedas is just karma kanda. Yes. But it doesn't mean that they don't have spiritual parts. We have Upanishads, which is Jnana Kanda, and we have Bhakti, about devotional, and especially Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of the whole Vedas. Yes. Is it okay? Did I answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes. I mean, when we generally talk to devotees and explain, right, we generally discourage them from trying to get too much direct Vedic knowledge, right? We're saying the Vedas are too complicated, they're beyond, and they tend to
yes.
more with material subjects and things like that, right? And
Yes.
He is saying that no, Vedas actually is the Praman, it's the basis of everything.
Yes. It's the broader understanding of the Vedas. But then it doesn't mean that whatever is in the Vedas is the same. No, big difference is there between karma kanda and devotion. See? But if you have spiritual consciousness, we read how Bharata Maharaj, in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he was worshipping demigods according to karma kanda rituals. But for him it was pure devotion. It's what Jiva Goswami says, Aropa Siddha Bhakti, because he saw the demigods as the part of the Supreme Lord. And he did these rituals with the devotion, trying to please Krishna. So it's also possible. Wow. It depends on the consciousness of the devotee, you see. Okay? Yes. Yes, thank you for your questions. Yes, Pavitra Prabhu, yes, you have a question, please.
Krishna Prabhu, I was trying to follow up. I have this book, but I don't know which chapter we are now.
Now we have finished the Sarvajna to 10th Anucheda of Tattva-sandarbha. It means the page 285. We already finished. Yes, 85. We finished it already. And now we are going to start the next Anucheda, the 11th Anucheda, which is also very important part of the understanding of the Vedas. It's on the page 33 in this book. Okay? So if you follow the book, please go to the page 33 and we're going to continue. So, dear devotees, is it understood what I said before? Is it more or less clear? I understand that everything is achintya, but still, like Jiva Goswami, he says it with the not trying to make everything very complicated, but just trying to make our faith in the Vedas more strong, saying that Vedas are not just what you are accustomed to understand. It's completely different. And that's why we accept the Vedas. You see? Okay? And then, let us go to the 11th Anucheda of Tattva-sandarbha. Okay? It's also very, very interesting. You like it. Okay. Jiva Goswami says, Tacchanumatam tarka pratishthanat it adav achintyah kaluye bhava natam star kerna yojayet it adav shastra yonitvat it adav shutestu shabda mulatvat it adav pitrideva manushyanam vedascha kshosh taveshvara shreyastvanupalabdherdhe sadhya sadhanayorapi it adav cha. This is upheld, like this, the authority of the Shastras that it's above the other pramanas, which means Pratyakshi and Anumana and others, Arsha, Cheshta, Arthapati, Upamana and so on, that Shastra is the highest pramana. He says that this is upheld by the statements like this. Tarka Pratishthanat, this is the Vedanta Sutra 2.1.11, because logical conjecture is never conclusive. Then, Achintikhalu Yebhavana Tam Starkina Yudjayet, things inconceivable cannot be explained by logic. Then, Shastra Nitvat, no, because the revealed scriptures say otherwise, and knowledge of the Supreme is derived from transcendental sound. It's also Vedanta Sutra 1-3. Then, and this, for the forefathers, demigods, and human race, O Lord, the Vedas are your own perfect eyes, the means of vision for everyone. They are the best instrument for seeing what cannot ordinarily be perceived, and for ascertaining the goals and means of progressive life. Wow! So Vedas, the source of all success in your life. And why Jiva Goswami brings those statements is from Vedanta Sutra, from Mahabharata, and from Shrimad Bhagavatam. What is common in these statements? All these books, they are written by Srila Vyasadeva. So Srila Jiva Goswami, he said that Vedas are swapramanya, but then we need kind of confirmation or the opinion. Like he gave his own opinion, and somebody might say that you just concocted the facts, you just concocted something that this, as you say, this Shastra or Vedas as the highest pramana, as inconceivable means of understanding the inconceivable Supreme Lord, is the actual means of understanding the highest knowledge. But this is just your concoction. But if anybody else who really knows what is the Vedas, he might think otherwise. And then Gopinath Prabhu, he writes, the Vedas have no human author, but amongst human beings, the most universally respected authority on the Vedas is Srila Krishna Dvapayana Vyasa, who is recognized as an empowered literary incarnation of the Lord, incarnation of God. Just prior to the beginning of this Kali Yuga, 5,000 years ago, he edited all the texts of the Vedas for use by the less intelligent people of our age. For this, he earned the title Vedavyasa, editor of the Vedas. In addition, as his personal contribution to Vedic understanding, Vyasadeva composed two great works, the Vedanta Sutra and Mahabharata. And then also, we know that he had manifested the Shrimad Bhagavatam. So basically, this is those two books, they are the opinion of Srila Vyasadeva. What he thinks about the Vedas is called Nyaya Prasthana, Vedanta Sutra, the highest conclusions of the understanding, what is there in the Vedas. And therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami, he quotes Vyasadeva's opinion to see whether what he proposed Vedas are proper or not proper. And he says that actually Vyasadeva, he confirms that whatever he said about the transcendental nature of the Vedas is like that Vedas, they are the highest pramana amongst all the pramanas we can we can use for getting the spiritual knowledge. You see? Just one second, dear devotees. I have to put on light because it's getting dark. Just 1 second. Stay. Okay, so he says about he quotes what is there in Vedanta Sutra, and this mantras Tarko Pratishthanat, that Tarka, Anumana or logic cannot give you proper understanding of the reality. And Gopinath Prabhu, he explains Tarka Pratishthanat is part of an argument in the second chapter of the Vedanta Sutras, 2.1.11. There, an opposite claim is being considered, that the absolute truth can be discovered by logic. In answering this view, the sutra implies in spoken words, no, logical conjecture is not sufficient for realizing the Supreme, and then continues by saying, because it's never conclusive. The word tarka pratishthanat, tarka, in its more technical sense, implicates the speculative process of sorting out a number of possible premises, imagining the consequences of each, and eliminating the obviously inappropriate ones. I want to prove that there is a fire on the mountain. Why do you believe this? Because the air is getting warmer? No, that could be on account of the sun's coming out from behind the clouds, because there is smoke on the mountain. Well, if there weren't any fire, there wouldn't be any smoke. This kind of educated question may be truthful within a limited range of logically analyzable situations, but it can never enter the material, immeasurable range of transcendence. As stated in Katha Upanishad 1-9, Neshat tarkena matir appaneya proktanyanaiva sujnanaya prishtha. My dear boy, this understanding cannot be attained by tarka. To be realizable as a spiritual truth is realizable as spiritual truth. It must be spoken by someone with special authority. Proktanena eva sugyanaya prishtha. By sugyana. Sugyana means one who has the higher understanding. And as we said while speaking about the anumana, that the crucial point is hetu, the hypothesis, like the reasons why we think it's so. And our hetus, they are based on the pratyaksha, on our sensory perception. And if you miss just one point, just one, for example, information from one person or from one sense, and it can be crucial information, and then we make a decision according to the not full information, and we can make a mistake. And this is therefore in this material world the only means how to come to the most perfect conclusion is to find as much as possible information. Like the scientists, they say that the water boils in the 100 degrees of Celsius, but then they see with the normal pressure, atmosphere pressure, because if pressure is higher, water will boil in the lower temperature or the higher temperature. So that's why they, if you see that water doesn't boil at 100 Celsius, it means that something is wrong, and therefore they refine the initial conditions of the situation. So that's why you should refine everything, and that depends on the information you can receive from different senses, and you will never be able to get full information, to be completely sure that what you propose will be like that. So that's why even in material realm, to some extent you can use logic, but not to the spiritual realm, because Krishna is adhokshaja, which means that he is not perceivable by material senses. That Upanishad says, Yatovachon nivartante prapya manasa saha, you won't be able to understand him with the mind. Aprapya manasa saha, Yatovachon nivartante, you are not able to describe him with your voice. It's not possible. He is completely transcendental. So, therefore, the logic is not usable for the spiritual realm. And then tarka pratishthanat. Why tarka is false? That you premise your hetu. If you choose one hetu, you will come to one conclusion. If you choose another hetu, you will come to another conclusion. So therefore, pratishtha means the foundation. And because of the different hetus, different foundations and different conclusions. So that's why you will never be able to come to the proper knowledge by using logic. And then this Mahabharata verse says, Achintya khal ye bhava natam starkina ye jayet. That Achintya is the bhavaha, which means the states of existence which are not possible to natam starkina ye jayet, which are not possible to huge means to combine, like black and white, good and bad, and so on. You won't be able to combine them. Like you have, as we said, one premise, one hetu, another hetu, and so on, by using logic. But achintya means that the hetu should be completely different from what you can see in this material world. Spiritual hetu, how to say. It's achintya, so you won't be able to understand by tarka or pratishta. It's not possible. It should be some other means how to understand the reality which is under the name of achintya, which is inconceivable, not by logic. And then he says, Shastra Unitvat is one of the statements also of Vedanta Sutras. It's a positive meaning that by Shastras you can get the knowledge about Krishna as he is. Shastra is the yoni, like we have the womb of the mother, from which you have son or daughter. And the same way, Krishna can be born, how to say, not just he is born from the Vedas, in the literary sense. No, Veda can provide you the knowledge about Krishna as he is. Vedaisha sarvar aham vidyah, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that the goal of all Vedas is to understand me. And Vedya Masta Matra Vastu Shivadam Tapatra Mulanam. In the second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Vedyam Vastamam Vastu, that Supreme Lord is the Vastu, is the essence of every sin, is the real substance, is the source of every sin. And Vedyamam Vastu, it's Vastamam Vastu. I'm sorry. It means that the essence, along with his secondary manifestations, his different energies, and it's Vedyam. Vedyam means that you should try to understand him. And the question arises, okay, well, try to understand, try, and never understand. But Vedya also is been used in the meaning Samarthya, that he is understandable. It's possible to understand him. And therefore, in the very first sutra of Vedanta Sutra, it is said, Athato Brahma Jignasa. Now it's time to ask questions about Brahma, about Supreme Lord. And Ramanujari, in his commentary, he says that it would be useful to force you, to inspire you to ask questions about the Supreme Lord, if he is inconceivable, if he is not understandable. So he proves that, yes, you will be able to understand him by using proper means, which is the Shastra Nitvad, the knowledge which is there in the Vedas, and the methodology of applying Vedas in your life. Then you'll be able to understand it. And then we see in the very last verse of Vedanta Sutra, 2 times it's repeated, Anavriti Shabdat, that the liberation, the revelation, the knowledge about the Lord comes through the Shabda. Shabda means the transcendental sound of the Vedas, or the sound of the holy name. Krishna manifests himself to such a sincere devotees. So it's possible to understand him. That's why Shastra Unitvat is very, very important sutra. It's positive. And then Shutyestu Shabda Mulatvat is also Vedanta Sutra. It's a big discussion about that we see in the Vedas the Supreme Lord, he supports in every sin, and he's source of every sin, like all events, and like a supercomputer. But then he's never tired. And then we see, wow, if somebody does so many things, he will become tired after some time. And why you say that Supreme Lord is never tired? It's impractical, it's impossible. But then the sutra says, no, Shutyestu Shabda Mulatvad. Shastras say that he is not getting tired. And this is the, just because it goes against your logic and your sensory perception, it doesn't mean that this is not truth. It's higher than what you see and what you understand. Shastras, they override our pratyaksha and anumana. It's very, very important things also. And then this is Mahabharata, Vedanta Sutra, and Shrimad Bhagavatam. Ved Pitrideva Manushyanam, this verse was spoken by Uddhava, who is the dear devotee of Krishna and who is the close friend of Krishna. And he expresses his gratitude to Krishna. Krishna, thank you very much that you gave the living entities the Vedas. As we said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it said, Maya Mugda Jivanahi Svatah Krishna Jnana, Jvera Kripaya Kola Krishna Veda Purana. That by their own force or means, living entities, they won't be able to understand Krishna as he is. And Jivera Kripaya, out of compassion to living entities, Koila Krishna Veda Purana. Krishna gave us Vedas and Puranas. This is his mercy. And here Uddhava, he expresses his gratitude. Krishna, thank you very much that you gave us such a wonderful books, Vedas, which are the highest source of knowledge for every living entities. Devas, Manushas, Pitri, Bhutas, demon, everyone can get the highest benefit from studying the Vedas and using them in his or her practical life. So that's what Jiva Goswami says in this main text of the Anusheda, and then we come to the Sarva-sambhajini, which is a huge section. It's a page 285. When he basically quotes same things, but then he raises a very important question. Therefore, the Vedas are the authority reliable in all matters and all respects. But since the Vedas consist of the words of the all-knowing Supreme Lord, finite living entities, living beings, who do not know everything, have difficulty figuring out what the Vedas mean. Wow, it's also very important. Yes, Vedas are inconceivable, the highest, Anantaparam, unlimited, and so on, completely different things, the means of understanding inconceivable living entity, Supreme Lord. But if Vedas are inconceivable, how we can understand the Vedas? It's a big question. You see? So now in this Anusheda, Jiva Goswami is going to put in the place. What is the place of logic? What is the place of pratyaksha, of intelligence, like how Vedas manifest in your consciousness, the theory of language, and how we can understand different meanings of the Vedas, because we have Mukhya Lakshana, Gauna Lakshana, Mukhya Vritti, Lakshana Vritti, Gauna Vritti, Vyajana Vritti, different meanings of the Vedas. We have different methods or technologies how to understand what is there in the Vedas. So it's a huge Anusheda, like huge discussion which Jiva Goswami raises in this Sarva-sambhajini. And I will try to cover like maybe most important part of it, because it's very technical. I remember when I was studying this in our school, Shrimad Bhagavata Vidyapitham with God Pradhana Prabhu, we studied this part about 2 months. You see, 2 months, just this Sarva-sambhajini to 11 Anusheda of Tattva-sandarbha. We don't have 2 months to study it thoroughly, unfortunately. Although I would like to do it. But maybe some most important parts I will tell. Something which is relevant for us in our practical life. You see? So he says first, Kintu Sarvageshvara Vachanetva Vachanatvena Asarvagya Jivair. Those jivas who are not Sarvagya, but Asarvagya. Sarvagya means one who knows everything, and Asarvagya, which means that who doesn't know everything. So Asarvagya jivas, they cannot kintu Sarva Geshvara Vachanatvena Durhatvat Tat Prabhava Labdha Pratyaksha Vishesha Vathir Eva Sarvatra Tat Anubhavi Shakyate Not to Tarkaihi. He says that, but since the Vedas consist of the words of all-knowing Supreme Lord, finite living beings who don't know everything have difficulties figuring out what the Vedas mean. only those who, by his power, have received special perceptive capacity, only they are able in all circumstances to realize what the Vedas mean. Mental speculators are not able to do so. So basically he says that only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord you can understand Vedas. So what we said before, that Vedas, they are the highest source of knowledge, and only very fortunate living entities, they believe in the Vedas. They approach the Vedas as the highest source of knowledge. It's already the mercy of the Lord. But then when they approach the Vedas, to understand the Vedas, you need the further mercy of Krishna. Without that you won't be able to understand. You see, that's what Jiva Goswami says here. Important, right? And then he says, just logic won't be able to help you. And he quotes one verse from Purushottama Tantra. Shastrartha yuktanu bhava pramanam tuttamam matam anumadhyana sa svatantrah pramana padavim yayuhu. That personal realization supported by teaching of Shastra is considered the most excellent means of correct knowledge. Inference and the other means of knowing cannot independently claim authority. This is the second part of what I have already quoted. Anumadya na svatantrah. Anumana, adya, and so on, na svatantrah. Pramana padavim yayuhu. They are not the reliable means to understand what is there in the Vedas. By logic Vedas you won't be able to understand. Only by the Shastratha Yukta Anubhava. Anubhava means the realization which came by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Shastra Artha Yukta, and which is supported by the knowledge of the Vedas. Like you study Vedas, you practice what is there in the Vedas, and then you get some experience, some realization, and that realization should be confirmed in the Vedas. That's the highest pramana, according to Jiva Goswami. And then he says, in the Brahma Sutras, the author expresses a similar opinion, because logical conjecture is never conclusive. It's the Shutistu Shabda Mulatvat, same sutra which was there in the main text. It said out, Tatha cha Shutihi, the Shattarkana Matir Appaniya Proktanya Neva Sujjanaya Prishtha. Same verse which was quoted also in the commentary to the main text of Revan Anusheda. Now we are reading Sarvajna, which is the Jiva Goswami's own commentary to the Tattva-sandarbha. So he's making everything is even more complicated. And then he says, no, because the revealed scriptures say otherwise, and because knowledge of the Supreme is derived from transcendental sound. And then he says, he quotes the verse from Varaha Purana. Sarvatra shakyate kartum aggamam hi vinanuma tasmanna sa shaktimati vinagamam udikshitum. Varaha Purana says, in any circumstances one may use logical inference separately from scripture. Yes, you can do it, but that just means that such inference lacks the needed potency for discovering the truth. Like we said, that we don't reject completely the anumana or logic in our day-by-day activities. It has some scope of usage, but it's restricted. It's not full. If you want to understand something which is beyond the logic won't be able to help you. So that's why Jiva Goswami says about that. And then he says, he quotes what Advaitavadis say. Yatnena padito pyartha kushalar anumartribhih apyukta tarar anyar anyathaivo papadyate. Proponents of Advaitavada have also said, even if an idea has been proven by the most expert logicians, most expert logics use it everything, all the instruments, like all the tools, all the methods of the logic, you use everything, and they came to the conclusion. Jiva Goswami says, there will always be other, more competent logicians ready to disprove it. They will refute what you had established. Wow! It's impossible to come to the end by logic. And also, and we find in the Vedanta commentary of the Advaita school, nor is it possible to gather all the logicians of past, present and future in one place at one time, so that we could establish their opinion once and for all as the perfect understanding. Like we have one logician, and then he came to one conclusion, but then after some times another logician comes and he refutes him, he refines his theory, he improves his understanding, then another one, or vice versa. We understand something corrupt in a corrupted way, what was perfectly established in the past. So in order to get the full understanding, you might try to gather in one place all the logicians, all the scholars from past, present and future. And then you will get the combined understanding of all the logicians. But Jiva Goswami, he says, still it will be imperfect. Wow! And then he says, but because the Vedas are eternal and because they effectively generate realized knowledge, it is reasonable to accept what they present on various topics as definite truth. Therefore, even all the mental speculators, past, present and future, cannot refute the validity of the knowledge yielded by the Vedas. And then he says, so basically Vedas, they transcend the logic, they higher than logic. They have more authority than what was established by logic. But then he says, but still in the Vedas we see as logic is being used as part of the Vedas. So how to understand? You say that logic is not important, is useless, but then in Vedas itself, logic is there. How to understand it? How to put it together? Wow, interesting, right? And then he says, and when we sometimes see in the revealed scriptures that understanding is provided by speculative logic, logic there is praiseworthy because it is part of scripture. Such speculation is offered only for the sake of making understanding easier. So, and then he quotes how we can use this logic. Very important verse. Yet to shotavyo mantavya its adishu mananam nama tarkon gikritaha. And suppose that speculation is acknowledged under the name of reflection, like this verse from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Atmava are drashtavyam shotavyo mantavyo nititasitabhyo maitreyi. Atmava are drashtavyam. That you have to see the absolute truth. You have to make efforts to understand. And how? Shotavyo, hear about it. Mantavyo, use logic, reflect about it. And nititasitabhyo maitreyi. And then you will get to the nididhyasana, which means the meditation of the supreme absolute truth. And then you will see it as it is. Shotavyo mantavyo nititasitabhyo maitreyi. This is part of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And then like apparently it inspires you. Yes, you have to use logic to understand the supreme, to understand the Vedas. And then Jiva Goswami, he says, according to the Kurma Purana, such a thing is said in the following verse: Purva para virodhyana konvartho bhimato bhavet its adyam uchanam tarkach shushka tarkam cha varjayet. Speculated means conjecturing in such a way as to ask which meaning of a text is suitable without contradicting what precedes and follows. Dry speculation, however, should be rejected. So this is important part of the arguments. What is the place of logic in our understanding of the Vedas? And he says that logic can be used to understand Vedas, but not shushkatarka. Just it should be connected to the Vedas, and not just connected to the Vedas, but connected to the Vedic methodology. And first, what Jiva Goswami said in the very beginning of this Sarvajna Samadhini, that we can understand the Vedas only by Krishna's mercy. And in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I just wanted to quote these verses to say, to show what is the place of logic in our efforts to understand the Vedas. Because Rupa Goswami, he establishes very, very important things for us to understand. He says at the very end of the first 1145, he says, Kim cha. Moreover, you should take into consideration or think about that. You can translate Kim cha in many ways from the Sanskrit. He says, Svapapi ruchir evasyat bhakti tattva-sandarbha yukti stu kevalana eva yat asya pratishtata. He says that only when you svapa apiruchir evasyat, only if you have some taste, spiritual taste, to what? Bhakti tattva avabodhika. If you have some taste for devotional service, if you want to understand Bhakti Tattva, understand Krishna as He is, to love Him, to serve Him better, if you have that mood in approaching Shastras, like, then only you'll be able to understand Shastras as they are. You'll be able to understand Bhakti. Yukti stu kevalana eva yat asya pratishtata. And he says that yuktis, the logic to kevala, naiva, it won't help you. Yet asya pratishtata, because it doesn't have the pratishtha, the foundation. As we said that because of the different hetus, you will come to different conclusions. And Jiva Goswami, he says, Ruchir atra, in his commentary to this verse, Bhakti tattva pratipadaka shabdeshu. This is the taste for the shabda, for the shabda pramana, which means the authoritative statements, which explain Bhakti tattva pratipadaka, by which you can get understanding of bhakti, of devotion to Krishna. Because by devotion you will get His mercy. Shabdeshu Shrimad Bhagavatadishu. Such books as Shrimad Bhagavatam, Prachina Samskarena Uttamatva Jnanam. And this taste to approach Shastras not in the academical way, but with bhakti, and for the sake of achieving bhakti, is not cheap things. He says that Prachina Samskarena Uttamatva Jnanam. Only by the previous samskaras. Like in the previous life, you had studied some Bhakti Shastras and then you get some inclination to study Shastras in that way, in that mood. Only then you will get some taste. And by that taste, you will be able to understand Shastras as they are. Uttamata Jnanam. This is the cost of the Uttama Jnana, or the highest understanding of the Shastras. Saiva Bhakti Tattvam Eva Avabodhaiti. So that mercy can provide you the higher understanding of the Bhakti Tattva. Yatha Shabdam Shatha Apayati iti. Therefore, it's according to your faith in Bhakti, or your level of Bhakti, you'll be able to understand it. And then he says, Kevala Shushka Naiva iti kintu dadruchi sahita. Just logic won't help you. But if you use logic combined by the taste, which taste? Taste to understand Krishna. Krishna, I want to love you, I want to serve you. And then with this taste which you put in the logic, then you can use it. Tadrucha sahita. Itam eva vakshete shastra yukta chanipuna. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.17. As it is said that Uttamatikari Shastre yukta cha nipuna. He is he's very expert in what? This is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.16.17. Shastra yukta chani puna sarvatha drithanishchayaha prautha shathotikariyah sabhakta uttamo mataha. One who is very expert in the Shastras, who knows Shastras, and he knows the yukti, which means the logic of the Shastras. He knows the proper logic, how to understand Shastras. Nipunah, sarvatha drithanishchayaha, and who has the intrinsic faith in Krishna, in devotional service, who studies Shastras only for the sake of bhakti, to improve his bhakti, to serve Krishna better. Prautha shatho tikari yah sabhaktau uttamo madaha. This is the uttamatikari. In the commentary, Jiva Goswami, he quotes the same verse from the Vaishnava Tantras. Purva apara narodhina konmantro abhimato bhavet. That it's which logic? You see one statement in the Shastras and another statement in the Shastras. And Purva apara anurodhina. You have to try to combine them together. Like it is said that Krishna likes this and Krishna likes that, and you have to put together how to understand it. Like sometimes in the Shastras it is said that Krishna, he has white flower in his right ear, in his ear, and then we see that Krishna has red flower in his ear, and how to put it together. Which flower Krishna has, red on white, and then the conclusion is that Krishna has red flower in the right ear and white flower in the left ear, like that. So that's the kind of logic which Uttamadhikari can use to understand Krishna's nature, to put together all different opposite statements of the Shastras. And he can do it by the mercy of Krishna. Krishna can give his this mercy, Achintya Shakti, by which he can put together all these opposite statements. So that's the place of logic in our life. It doesn't mean that we don't use logic at all. No, we use it. But just logic, only by logic we won't be able to understand Shastras. Kevala shushkatarkam tuvarjayet. Just analytical logic, without devotion, without prayer to Supreme Lord, you won't be able to understand things as they are. So this is the important, very, very important point. And then Srila Jiva Goswami, he also speaks about the Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, who Yakshastradhish Anipunach Shathavan Sato Madhyamaha, who has also very strong faith, but his knowledge of the Shastras and the knowledge of the logic of the Shastras, how to put together different statements of the Shastras, is not so strong. So therefore, whenever somebody comes and offers some strong argument, he might be defeated. But then still his faith is not shaken. It doesn't lose his faith, because his faith is more on the spiritual anubhava, or spiritual relationship with Krishna. He's got direct perception of Krishna by his devotion. So therefore, his faith is not based only on the knowledge of Shastras, of the logic of the Shastras. If knowledge of the Shastras and logic is there, is better, but he might be defeated. And then about Kanishta Tikari, Yobhavet Komala Shradhah Sakanishto Nigadyate, is Komala Shradha, which means that he doesn't know Shastras as good as Uttamadhikari and Madhyamadhikari, and also his faith is very weak, and therefore when he meets some very strong arguments, his faith may get shaken. And Jiva Goswami says that having weak faith, Komala Shradha, means that it's possible to break his faith by different spiritual reasoning. But Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, Paschat Svakrita Vivekina Guru Padishthar Tham Eva Nishchinoti. But then, because he is still a devotee, he will go to his spiritual master, to the more senior Vaishnavas, who knows better Shastras, and then he will ask questions. And then, by their mercy, he will get reestablished in the devotion. He will come back to the devotional service. But for some time, he can be kicked out. His faith may be shaken, because he is Komala Shradha, he is not very strong faith. So therefore, it's important to have the knowledge of the Shastras, because this is the basis of our devotion. It's important to know how to use logic by understanding Shastras, but it's not the primary means. Most important is devotion, is the humility, is danya, that whatever tools or means I use to understand Shastras is not enough. I need mercy of Krishna. Then only I can understand him as he is. Okay? Is it understood, dear devotees? It's a big part, because then Jiva Goswami he will give the another arguments. Is it clear? Because sometimes devotees they say, oh, what is the use of studying Shastras? What is the use of the logic and so on? No, it's important, but only by logic and only by Shastric knowledge you won't be able to understand Krishna as he is. Just by academical, external knowledge of Shastras. You have to need Krishna's mercy to understand him. He says, Bhakti mam abhijanati, yamanashasmi tattvataha. By bhakti, by devotion, you can understand me as I am. Not tarkena mam abhijanati, not by logic you can understand me. Not gyanena mam abhijanati or karmena mam abhijanati. Not by karma or jnana, no, only by devotion. But it means that you should be devotion for the sake of devotion. You study Shastras to become better devotee. And for that sake, you can use the Shastric knowledge. And that can be useful for understanding Krishna. Yes. Okay, Mataji Prabhupada Priya. Hare Krishna.
Just to reflect back, I think, to
Yes.
confirm, it seems that what you're saying is that logic and speculation is not a bad thing in itself, but the problem is dry speculation, when we're using logic or speculation just from the beginning to try to understand the absolute truth. But first we need to hear. So we hear from Shastra, we hear from, Guru Sadhu Shastra, and then we get the juice. So then it's no longer dry speculation because we have the rasa, the rasa.
Yes. Basically, we need a devotion. And devotion, Vaishnavata Danyata, it is said that Vaishnava means one who is humble. You have to see that. Who am I to understand Vedas? As we just said, Vedas are like this, like so many things. How we can understand them? They are inconceivable. And we can understand Vedas only by the mercy of the Vedas, by bhakti. Because Vedas are spiritual, we need some spiritual energy, bhakti energy. And bhakti energy starts, Shiguru Padashraya, as you said, taking shelter of spiritual master, approaching him, and under the direction of the spiritual master, you study the Vedas by his blessings. That's the first devotion you have to manifest. That's right. Yeah. And then by that taste, and especially when you get an experience, you study Vedas to become a better devotee. And then you see, wow, I didn't know about that. Actually, it's better to chant Hare Krishna in such a way. And then you apply it in your life and you get, wow, such a nice result. That's the taste. Swapapi ruchi evasyat Krishna tattva avabodhika. You want to understand Krishna, you want to understand devotion. And then you, with this approach, you take something from the Vedas, you apply it in your life, and you get a result. And your taste increases. You will like to study Shastras with that mood, for the sake of devotion. And then the more you use it, the more taste you will get. And the more taste you get, the more you will get. Krishna will reveal himself for you. That's the approach Jiva Goswami says, and Rupa Goswami says in their literatures. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking of it by way of an analogy that, like we say that Shrimad Bhagavatam is like the cream of the Vedic literature. Mm-hmm. So we take the cream, we receive the cream, but then cream is a liquid thing that can, flow away. So, but then by reflecting on it, by using logic and reflection, then we churn it. So when you churn cream, it becomes butter. So butter's not going to flow away. But butter can become sour, over time. So in the same way that when we receive knowledge and we just think about it a lot, we can come up with questions or doubts that can make our attitude towards that knowledge become sour. So, but then by applying the knowledge, by service, by serving and submissively inquiring from the spiritual master, by living it, then that ignites the fire that makes the butter turn into ghee, and then ghee will last forever. Like ghee doesn't go bad. So, that represents our realized knowledge.
Yes. I think it was from the Prabhupada Priya Samhita. Such a nice analogy. Thank you very much, Mataji, for your contribution. Okay. So, yes, like that, yeah. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, 284, extremely important verse. Parikshit Maharaj speaks to Shukadeva Goswami. He says, Shrimatah Shadhaya Nityam, Grintascha Svachevsitam, Karena Nati Dirthina, Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. If you Shrimatah Shadhaya Nityam, if you hear with faith, Nityam, regularly, always churning, as you said, and Grintascha Svachevsitam, you take it, you apply it in your life, you try to see how it's relevant for you, for your devotion. Then, until it becomes sour. Kalena Nasidir Khina Bhagavan Vishate Hriti. Then it becomes the ghee or the honey, the nectar. And then Krishna appears in your heart and he destroys all the anarthas and he gives you Sakshat Darshan. So it's possible, but by the proper means. Yes, and it's called Svadhyaya, Shastra Svadhyaya. Studying Shastras and trying to apply them to your practical situation. How it is relevant for me, how it helps me to become a better devotee. That's the proper approach to the Shastras, not just some academic approach. You get a diploma of Bhakti Shastra, Bhakti Vabhava, Bhakti Vedanta, and so on, Tattva-sandarbha, that's just so many diplomas, but heart is the same. You need to change your heart. And for that you have to study with this particular mood of devotion. Yes.
I just realized when you said that word swadhyaya, dhyaya is like dhyayato, it means like to meditate on.
No.
Right?
Sva-adhyaya. Adhyayana means, adhyayana is different. It's adhidha. Adhyayana means study. And sva means according to your situation. You study Shastras according to your situation.
Okay.
Yes. Because sometimes Sanskrit words, when you put upasarga, they get a different meaning. So that's why Svadhyaya means the study applying to your own situation. Okay, thank you. Kasturika Mataji, please, what is your question?
Krishna Prabhu, just one question. We are studying Tattva-sandarbha because to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Then what is the need for Jiva Goswami to write a commentary upon a commentary like Sarvajna? Can you explain the relation between the Sandarbha?
Yes. Basically, Jiva Goswami, he wants to prove that Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest pramana. And then, because it's the highest pramana, it's worthy of studying. Otherwise, what is the use of studying some bogus book? Srimad Bhagavatam, 12 cantos, so many shastras, so many shlokas. What is the use? Right? Maybe it's better to study Mahabharata or study some PhD or whatever, some scientist books, or just it will be irrelevant. So therefore, first Jiva Goswami, he wants to say that first of all, Pratyaksha Numana won't work. Any pramanas won't work. Then Shabda Pramana is the highest pramana. Then he says that out of all Shabda Pramanas, the highest is the Vedic Shabda Pramana. Then he's going to say, yes, okay, what is there in the Vedas? He's going to say that, yes, Vedas are Pramana, but in Vedas they are Shruti and Smriti. And in the 12th Anushketa, he's going to say that Shrutis, original Vedas, they are corrupted, we don't have them in full, they are very difficult to understand, therefore we need to approach to Puranas. And then he, for 7 Anushketas, he establishes the authority of the Puranas, that they have the same Vedic authority, same Vedic Shabda, highest knowledge. And then he says, but Puranas, they are for different people in the modes of Tamaguna, Rajaguna, and Sattvaguna. Therefore, it's better to choose the Puranas in the Sattvaguna, 6 Sattvika Puranas. And then he says that even in those Puranas, still we can, from them, we won't be able to get the highest knowledge. Therefore, he says that maybe we should approach Vedanta Sutra. And then he says, no, it's very difficult to understand Vedanta Sutra. And then he says, okay, we should have the scripture which has the same authority as the original Shruti. The quality of the Puranas, especially, it should be the Sattvika Purana, the higher Purana. It should be also connected to Vedanta Sutra. And it should be able to give us the highest knowledge about Bhakti. And then he says, thank you very much. You had reminded us for the Srimad Bhagavatam, who has the qualities of all these different parts of the Vedic literatures. And then he's going to analyze what is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he establishes the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then, after that only, on the basis of Srimad Bhagavatam, he stands to speak about what is the absolute truth. That's the logic of Jiva Goswami. And because some of the parts of the argument which he gave in the main text of the Tattva-sandarbha are very complicated, not to make complicated our life, he put them in the Sarva-samajini. And as we say that, just from different sides, he says that Vedas are authoritative, Vedas are transcendental, Vedas like this, like this, like that, and so on, just to strengthen our faith. If you already have that faith, you don't need to read all this Sarva-samvadini. But if you don't, it's better to read at least once. Then you can continue with the main line of the arguments. Okay, Vedas are okay, Puranas okay, Vedanta Sutra is okay, but okay, not okay. But then Srimad Bhagavatam is completely okay. And then you can just completely absorb yourself and study in Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the logic why Jiva Goswami he writes his own commentary on his own text. Is it understood, Mataji? Did I answer your question?
So if I understood right, so to prove the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, Jiva Goswami chose to write the Sandarbhas. But to explain more easy way, he chose to write Sarva-samadhi.
Not an easy way. Actually, he would like to make it just one presentation in one book, but then some part of the arguments would become very complicated, and like some not very qualified readers, they would study them, and it would be difficult for them to proceed. Therefore, what Jiva Goswami does, he says in the main text more or less simple things. As we say that, like in the 10th, 11th, 12th Anushkeda, it's more or less easy to understand things. But then, for those who want to understand more broad, more technical things, for them he gives Sarva-samadhi. So he's basically, yes, he's explaining his own arguments in the main text, but then he makes it more broad, more details, like more complicated. But for those people who wants to see more than what is just there in the main text. So this is for special people. And I'm reading this Sarva-samadhi because I think that you are the special people. If not, I wouldn't read it myself. But you can see that it's very, very practical, very important things which Jiva Goswami says. But if you think that it's not necessary, you can just skip it and go and go further with the main text. You see, that's the mood of Jiva Goswami. He wants to make easy our life. But if you want something more complicated, okay, go to Sarva-samadhi, and you will get a lot of very, very important information for you. You will become completely satisfied in all respects. Now is it understood, Mataji?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, dear devotees, let's stop now. Tomorrow we'll have Sunday, day off, and then we'll continue with Tattva-sandarbha. Actually, I wanted to finish today all this 11 Anushkeda, but Sarva-samadhi, but we just started it, and then we'll continue on the Monday. I will try to make it practical, so that we could just use it in our practical life. Okay, this is the biggest Anushkedas in the whole Tattva-sandarbha, so that's why the biggest and most complicated Anushkedas. But some part of the knowledge, Jiva Goswami says, are important to strengthen our faith. That's why I choose them to also use it in our Tattva-sandarbha seminar. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention, for your very wonderful questions, for your quotations from Prabhupada Priya Samhita and so on. So I would be happy if another devotee also quoted from their Samhitas, because if you have devotion to Krishna, Krishna will definitely manifest and give some nice revelations, nice knowledge. Okay. Grantaraja Shri Tattva-sandarbha ki jai, Grantaraja Shri Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Smeta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.